The exchange does reveal and expose the extent to which the ceasefire agreement was built on a series of ambiguities. So, for example, one of the key provisions of that ceasefire agreement was that the Strait of Hormuz would be open to international maritime traffic. But it was phrased in a way that led both the United States and Iran to be able to present different versions of what that meant to their populations. The key passage is that it said that the Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days. The Iranians interpreted that as meaning, yes, the strait will be open, but they will be in charge of it. The Americans interpreted that as meaning the strait will be open and ships will be allowed free passage. The reason that the fighting has resumed is because the Iranians began firing on 5 ships that were passing through the strait, but passing using shipping lanes that Iran had not approved. According to Iran, they were within their rights to fire on those ships because they are managing the strait. According to the United States, Iran had violated the agreement because you're supposed to have free passage. And this is only one of the 14 points. Really, this ceasefire agreement was agreed to by both countries, not because it brought about a meeting of minds, but because it was so ambiguous that it allowed both countries to claim that it meant fundamentally different things. That might be enough to get people to the table for real negotiations, but it's not enough for any kind of durable peace. And the resumption of fighting means that real negotiations are further away.
That is so depressing and speaks to that rhetorical volley that you talked about. I want to now hear directly from U.S. President Donald Trump, because at the closing remarks at the NATO summit, he spoke about Iran. Let's listen together.
The Iran war has been a tremendous military success. And, I can only answer the question by saying they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. I was there for one reason, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I call it, we denuclearize Iran. And that's happened. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
All right, sir. The U.S. president there calling this a tremendous success and saying that Iran, as he put it there, has no chance of a nuclear weapon. What do you think?
I think that's an exercise in massive self-deception. I'm not entirely certain what Donald Trump's real objectives were going into this war. He himself was, at best, unclear about those points. But certainly, the status quo in which we find ourselves is significantly worse than the situation was when the region was governed by the agreement, the Barack Obama's agreement, Iran nuclear agreement. Even the interim agreement that Trump has now denounced said nothing about what would happen to Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium. It also put off until the future the whole question of the dismantling of Iran's nuclear program. And one of the provisions said explicitly, and I quote, "The Islamic Republic of Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program." And that is written into the agreement. When I speak to my colleagues in the US State Department and ask them, what was the strategy here? To the extent that they were willing to answer the question, the phrase that many of them used was, this was a piñata strategy. That is to say, that Donald Trump was going to go in and whack Iran until some candy fell out. That's not a rational approach. And of course, the difference between a piñata and a country is that a country can whack you back. Donald Trump appears not to have thought through what would happen as a result of his bombing campaign. And that lack of forethought now jeopardizes the world economy, the lives of innocent people, and the future of his own government.
Akash, thank you so much for coming on and helping us understand this very complicated and continued story.
Thank you.
Akash Maharaj is a senior fellow at the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto.